This is A's Cast Live, your comprehensive look at the Oakland Athletics.
And the pitch is swung on, hit the right field, hit deep. Whitefield going back at the track, over his head, and over the wall. Do you believe that?
And 29 other MLB clubs.
Ramirez with a drive to deep right, away back, goal!
Go Hayes! It's a bomb out there by the Rocks. And boy, oh boy, this third inning is now showtime.
It is a judging blast. All rise. Here comes the judge.
Join us as we take you inside the baseball universe, from humidors to spin rates to game-changing moments. We have you covered. Spend your afternoon with us next from the town, only on A's Cast Live. Here's Chris Townsend.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to A's Cast Live. Cody, how are you?
I'm doing well, Tommy. It's another Monday. World Cup is going on right now. Last time I checked, the U.S. and Wales were tied at 1, so I don't know what's happened since then, but we're a couple days away from Thanksgiving, so it's a good time of the year.
Yeah, I absolutely love Thanksgiving. Actually, you're seeing here, I'm turning on, I forgot to turn on the lights, our special fancy TV lights that we have now. I started looking up going, hey, what's going on here? But yeah, forgot to turn on the lights. It is interesting how World Cup is literally being shoved down your throat everywhere you look. And I'm not a big soccer guy. I've admitted that. I respect the tournament. It's a world tournament. It's, I know there's a lot, the viewership is absolutely unreal. Is it FIFA who puts it on?
Yeah, and it's official. 1-1 tie with Wales. So U.S. next game's Friday against England. That's going to be a tough one.
So I play golf with a lot of English guys, and they're funny when they talk about this because of how crooked this whole thing is, the fact that this is being played in the Middle East, and that when they actually wanted to have it, it was actually the main doctor of FIFA that said, guys, it's 120 degrees in the summer, so you can't play there during that time. Well, wait a minute. They just paid us all this money. They just paid us off. Don't even get me started. But, yeah, World Cup's going on. Great. NFL, we all know. But a lot of stuff happening in our game of baseball, and that's why you come to us. You come to us for your baseball news because the rumblings are going on right now. This is the start. If you want to say you're paving the road into free agency, you're paving your road into signings, you're paving the road into trades, that's what's happening right now. Everywhere you look, the rumors are happening. Whether it's coming from agents, it's coming from players, it's coming from, let's face it, it could be coming also from front offices. Everybody is starting to get ready for the winter meetings that are just, December 4th it starts down in San Diego. That Sunday, we'll be there on the 5th, live boots on the ground, getting you all the action that's happening. And this is going to be, in my opinion, a very robust, very exciting winter meetings because these front office people, they haven't had this in years. The winter meetings hasn't happened. They've had the GM meetings, but they haven't had a real winter meeting since 2019. They're going to be back. They are going to be ready to roll, rock and roll. As we know about the late night deals, and guys are having, whether it's whiskey or beer, and they're drinking and they're making calls and they're doing all these different things, and craziness can happen in the hotel. They miss the juice. They miss the action. It's one of the reasons why these front office people got into this business. Well, they haven't had that. You had a lockout last year. You've had COVID. We're back. And right now what you're hearing is take a guy like Justin Verlander. Oh, by the way, got to get to the guest. Hold on. Very special guest today. At some point, wouldn't you say he has to be an Oakland A's Hall of Famer?
Oh, 100%. I think you could maybe make the argument down the road that he could be a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer. But yeah, definitely Oakland A's Hall of Famer for sure.
The great Sandy Alderson, as of now, still the president of the New York Mets, When will his reign end? Because he's going to retire. Are they still looking for a president to replace him? Is that what they're doing with the Mets?
Yeah, this came out in like September of this year, but apparently it's going to be somewhere like in the near future. Sandy will step down as a team president and be a senior advisor to Steve Cohen. But as of right now, I haven't seen anything, but he's still the team president of the New York Mets.
So we're going to have Sandy on at 1:30. Bill Moriarty from Athletics Farm. He is going to be here at 2:30. We'll wrap up the Arizona Fall League. And I think for me, and probably you feel the same way, is tell me about who's going to help us really soon. That's what we want to know. We know Geloff. We know Soderstrom. Okay, who else is coming? When can they help us? When can Clark? When can Butler? When can these guys help us? Because we need help. We'll find that out coming up at 2:30. But I've been up early today and just going through a lot of different things, and I think Verlander would be a good guy right now. Verlander and Cody Bellinger are the really two good examples of what is happening in our business and how things are starting to get prepared. So Justin Verlander has recently had a Zoom meeting. How about that? A Zoom meeting with the New York Mets. Dodgers are going to meet with him. Obviously, LA is a place that we've said on this show, if he is to go anywhere, he's got to go to a place where he knows the team's going to win a lot of games because that's what he wants to do. He wants to get to 300 wins. So he needs to be on a team that's winning like 100 games a year. Who is that? Yeah, that is the Los Angeles Dodgers. Who, oh, by the way, Hollywood, the entertainment business, his wife, who does a lot of different things in the entertainment business, being one of the top supermodels in the world, they own a home there. Kind of makes sense. I'm sure Houston's still going to be in the running to keep him. The Yankees are going to come in. So there's going to be a certain amount of teams, but that's where the angles are coming out right now, right? Oh, going to meet with the Mets, going to meet with the Yankees, meeting with the Dodgers. It's all paving the way to where these guys, everybody wants to really sign when baseball comes together at the winter meetings. That's when all the media's there. That's when the hoopla's there. All the who's there. You want to sign at that point. Or a lot of people do. You don't want to wait till after. And then now, Cody Bellinger, my God. This is one of the most interesting cases. Like right now, you're hearing that Toronto is looking at signing him. They had been looking to trade for him. So obviously, there was interest there in the past. He really is fascinating when you think of what his career is. I almost feel bad for him because this kid was on the verge of, I mean, look at the year he was MVP. It was an amazing year. At his age, you would think he's the next guy to get a contract that warrants a 3 and a 0 and a 0. 2018, how many guys by 2018 had a contract over $300 million? Giancarlo Stanton. I don't think by the start of Trout didn't have his extension yet.
No, either did Mookie, Harper, and Trout.
Harper and Machado were free agents.
It would have been, I think, it would have been that going into that offseason, going into.
Cody, we're not hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Don't know what's happened to Cody. We can see Cody. Cody, try it again.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. I think whenever you were typing on your computer, it something was fidgeting with the, I don't know. But no, I think Harper and Machado signed that offseason going into 2019. So their first year would have been the 2019 season in Philly and San Diego. Because remember, the Nationals won the World Series the first year without Harper.
Okay. What year was Trout's extension?
Let me double check. Trout was, I think it was around the same time.
When did Mookie Betts go to L.A.?
That was 2020. That was before the COVID season started. Trout's it was March of 2019. Trout had the $430 million extension.
Okay, so then I'm probably right. Then Giancarlo Stanton was the only guy with a $300 million contract.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody else because obviously Cole didn't have one. That came later.
Now we're going into 2018. Cody Bellinger plays in 162 games. Hits 25 jacks, 76 RBIs. He's 22 years old. You're like, wow, this kid's going to be something because he wasn't a first-round pick. Obviously, the son of a former pitcher. And then all of a sudden, 2019 hits. And now we're hearing about contracts are coming, right? Now we believe these big contracts are upon us. And Cody Bellinger goes out and has a year to remember. For a guy that can play center field and first base, not too many human beings in the history of Major League Baseball could play center field and first base and do it at a Gold Glove level at both places, which basically means he can play anywhere you allow a left-hander to play, right? We're not going to put it at third, short, or second. Probably if you did, he'd still be pretty good, but we're not going to do that. So anywhere you can put a left-hander, left, center, right, first base, he's awesome. He goes out, hits 47 home runs, 115 RBIs, a 1,035 OPS, an OPS plus of 167, leads baseball in 351 total bases. He's your MVP. He's a Gold Glover. And you're thinking at 23 years old, the sky's the limit for this kid. I mean, he's 23 years old. He's the MVP. You win an MVP and you start having this kind of track record, you start thinking about Cooperstown. You're starting to think about a Dodger all-time great. He's now 27 years old, doesn't have a job, and he's terrible. He's had surgery on his shoulder. He's had a broken leg. He's had all kinds of health stuff. His swing has changed. I mean, think about that. When he was an MVP, he had 47 home runs. Last year, he had 19. I actually saw somebody who put out there on Twitter, and I believe everything I see and read on Twitter, that, well, Cody Bellinger still ranked first or second in all these different categories for outfielders. And I went, man, you are tone deaf. This kid wasn't just supposed to lead center fielders with 19 home runs. This kid's supposed to be one of the best players in the game. Who would have thought Cody Bellinger, entering right in the middle of his prime, is looking for a job? And this is a job that, if this doesn't go right, it really gets ugly for him. Because he became an easy out. When you hit 210 and have a 654 OPS and an on-base percentage of 265, you're an easy out. And Bellinger, right now the rumors are out there of all the people who are interested. It's the Blue Jays. It's the Padres. It's everybody's now, once again, paving the path all the way up to the winter meetings. Because that's what they want. If you're an agent, you want everybody that, Cody's so special. Cody does this. Cody does that. You're going into the winter meetings, Cody. I'm your agent. I want everybody thinking they want to hire you. I think everybody wants to sign you. You want that impression that everybody's out there. And I do think, like I said, I'd love Cody Bellinger for the A's. So I'd take Cody. I'd take the project of rehabbing Cody Bellinger right now. But I tell you what, I don't know if we've ever seen this, where someone was skyrocketing in their career, and by the time they hit their prime, they became an easy out. And the team that drafted him, the team that loved him, said, bye-bye.
Yeah, it's a bit odd because the other guy, remember the comparison that we were doing after he won the MVP was with Christian Yelich. Yelich has kind of fallen off the face of the earth too, but his numbers aren't as bad as Bellinger's been. And now Bellinger, according to his agent, Scott Boras, friend of the program, Boras is saying that he's probably going to he's most likely to sign a 1-year deal this offseason and then maybe look to rebuild his image and maybe have a better year than he did this year with his 654 OPS and 78 OPS plus. If you're counting at home, 100's league average, he was 78, so he's below average. And you want to hopefully see if he can find it again. Now, Boras is saying that he's had multiple year offers already. Yeah, maybe the Cubs have offered that. Maybe the Blue Jays have. A team, there's been rumors that the Giants have checked in on him. Like, he might be a good player to bring in, especially if you need help defensively, but you need him to rebuild his bat. And I don't know. He's been so bad the last few years, the strikeouts. Remember in the World Series in 2017, he couldn't even play in the game against lefties. They took him out of the lineup. So it's going to be intriguing to see what team signs him if they're able to turn around. Because if the Dodgers and their player development system couldn't turn him around, what team really could besides maybe the Astros?
And they're not one of the teams looking at him. And then the rumor mill, without Bellinger, without Turner, Tyler Anderson, you're going to see a lot. You're going to see a different Dodger team. I don't want to bag on a certain television host / analyst who thinks everything's going to LA, but it was happening today where everybody's going to the Dodgers. Verlander's going to the Dodgers. Judge is going to the Dodgers. It's like, oh my God. But yeah, that's kind of interesting with the outfield and the kind of the turmoil for a team that won 111 games. Quite a bit of turnover, and that's where if you want to believe anything that the Dodgers could, I don't buy it. I think the Dodgers are a front office that always wants to outsmart people. They like taking projects. They gave their money to the guy. They had their sights set on, we're going to give huge money to one guy. That was Mookie Betts. Kind of came out of nowhere and brought Freddie Freeman back home, paid him good money. But do I see them breaking the bank with another Mookie Betts type contract for Aaron Judge? I don't see it. Some do. I don't. But that would be interesting. Aaron Judge in LA with Mookie Betts in that outfield. You would have never thought it with Cody Bellinger because the talk was always after they signed Mookie Betts, you got to go out and sign Cody Bellinger. You're going to have to sign him to a $300-something million contract. He's an MVP, as everybody was saying. So, boy, has that changed. I want to tell everybody, and we'll be able to get into some of this with Sandy. And, God, we're already at 126. No, what was it, 124?
Yeah, 124 on my end. I don't know what time you have in the future there.
My computer says 126. I definitely want to get in with Sandy. I can tell you, I was with a former big leaguer on Saturday night at a birthday party. And a group of guys sitting around the old bonfire. People are excited about rule changes. It's so funny. I want to explain how we are in our own little bubble, this baseball bubble, to where the rest of sports fans aren't. Most sports fans are not, as Cody mentioned, World Cup's going on. The NFL's going on. So is the NBA and the NHL. So a lot of people don't live in our little baseball world. So when I started talking about rule changes on Saturday night, a former big leaguer was there. He was interested. And then the other gentleman around the bonfire, it was like a little campfire. Everybody gather around. Uncle Townie's going to tell some stories around the campfire. And people are excited about it. You know, changes in baseball, usually everybody can't, oh my God, changes. You don't mess with the game. The game's over 100 years old. Don't mess with the game, they like to say. Well, I had about 6 people, including one's a former Major League Baseball player, all saying, oh my God, it's refreshing to hear this is going to happen. And I was like, really? Oh yeah. Everybody is tired of long games. Everybody is tired of shifting. Everybody is tired of balls not being put into play. Everybody's tired that there's no running game. They want to see all of it back because they say, that's the baseball I like watching. The customer's right. We got to get into this. Good article today in ESPN, or I should say on ESPN.com, about just this. And what were they saying at the GM meetings? I don't know. Is roster construction going to change? Well, guess what? I think they'll figure it out. They claim to all be the smartest guys in the world with all their fancy degrees. I think they can figure out if the bases are bigger, how do we utilize that? If we can't shift, can we still figure out how to play defense? Can these guys with their Ivy League degrees still figure out how to play defense in baseball if they can't shift? Do you think they're smart enough to figure that out? We'll get into that. We'll ask Sandy Alderson, but obviously, without Sandy Alderson, there's no Moneyball. There's no Brad Pitt in Moneyball. There's no Billy Beane. Sandy Alderson made it all happen. We'll get his thoughts on Billy Beane and baseball. He's an all-time great. Sandy Alderson next, right here on A's Cast Live.
Oakland Athletics spring training is right around the corner, and you can be part of the excitement. Get your tickets now and plan ahead for a fun-filled trip to Mesa, Arizona this spring. Pack the sunscreen, bring your friends, pick up some ballpark classics, and watch your green and gold get ready for the regular season. Get your tickets today to see the Athletics take on the Giants, Padres, Cubs, Dodgers, and more. Tickets are on sale now at athletics.com/spring. That's athletics.com/spring.
The Coliseum has gone by many names, but none better than the Last Dive Bar. Hi, everyone. Ken Korak here, and my friends at Last Dive Bar are helping us celebrate our longtime home. Last Dive Bar has the most unique merchandise for all Oakland baseball fans. T-shirts, sweatshirts, the Ray Fosse line, and my personal favorite, the lights have taken full effect. Visit their website at lastdivebar.com or follow them on social media at Last Dive Bar. All proceeds are invested back into the A's Community Fund and their affiliated charities. Go to lastdivebar.com. That's lastdivebar.com.
Coming in at 5'3", it's number one mom. She switched to Xfinity and got the all-new 3-for-1 bundle. Unlimited internet, streaming, and Xfinity Mobile. All for what you could pay wireless companies for just one 5G unlimited line. Boom shakalaka. Go to Xfinity.com/3-for-1, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit an Xfinity store today. Limited time offer. Restrictions apply. Xfinity Mobile requires post-pay Xfinity Internet. After 24 months, regular rates apply to all services and devices.
Senior writer for MLB Pipeline Jim Callis was on A's Cast Live and discussed which A's prospect impressed him at the Arizona Fall League.
Zach Geloff kind of stood out to me the most. I'll tell you what surprised me the most about him. He looked pretty good at second base. I think of him as more of a third baseman. I know they play him a lot at second. He looked pretty good at second base when I saw him. I was there for a week. I'll go back to the final week too. But he was pretty impressive. I mean, I know he can hit. He's moved real quick in the minors. I remember I actually saw him for the first time in Arizona. We broadcast the MLB 4 tournament. This would have been 2019. It was his first game he played in college. I remember watching him in BP thinking, I'd never heard of him. The way we split the draft in MLB, I have half the country, but I didn't have Zach Geloff, who's from New Jersey. So I didn't really know much about him. I'm like, man, this guy looks really good in BP. And then he hit 3 doubles in the game. But I think Zach Geloff, I think the question is he a guy who's a solid player versus a guy who's like a cornerstone you build a team around? He might be more of that solid regular than a, true star you build around. But he looked really good in Arizona.
To listen to the full interview and much more, go to athletics.com/A'sCast.
Hey, A's fans. You know that running your own business is a slugfest every day. That's why businesses have been counting on Mechanics Bank since 1905. From operating lines of credit to equipment and real estate loans, they can help build your lineup to meet today's challenges and prepare for tomorrow's opportunities. Stop by your local branch or visit mechanicsbank.com today. Mechanics Bank, the official East Bay bank of the Oakland A's. Member FDIC and equal housing lender. All loans subject to program eligibility and credit approval.
This is Chris Townsend for the Chicken Pie Shop of Walnut Creek. Great news! Our indoor dining is back, along with our beautiful patio dining. Come taste our world-famous chicken pie that has been served in Southern California for 83 years. The Chicken Pie Shop of Walnut Creek has one of the most dynamic menus, plus a full bar. Pot pies, gourmet burgers, sandwiches, salads, flatbreads, and more. Don't forget, we still do takeout and delivery. For all the information, go to chickenpieshopwc.com. That's chickenpieshopwc.com.
Streaming from the East Bay, A's Cast Live continues with Chris Townsend.
Well, now joining us on A's Cast Live, when you think about an Oakland A great, when you think of baseball great, and I'm pretty sure someday he'll be going into our new Oakland A's Hall of Fame. Sandy Alderson is with us once again. Sandy, it is great to see. It's hard to believe the last time we talked to you, it's the last time that baseball got together back at the winter meetings in San Diego in 2019. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's been just a couple of years, but a lot has changed since 2019, given the COVID situation and a variety of other potential interruptions. So, but it's good to have baseball back in late November, going into early December in the winter meetings with no CBA overhang, no infectious disease overhang, and lots of potential free agent excitement.
Yeah, we definitely want to get into all that because I think we're going to have a robust meetings. I just got a feeling these guys, front office people, have been waiting to get back and get the juice going again and have this. So they're pretty active at the GM meetings. We'll get into that, but we want to talk about Billy Beane. Obviously, we know how special your relationship is with him. I've known Billy for nearly 30 years. And to think that Billy now is going to be John Fisher's right-hand man. David Force will take care of all the baseball operations. I'm sure you had some conversations with Billy about this. Just what's it like for you looking out west, knowing that kind of your prodigy, right? You made Billy Beane happen, is now just going to be there with the owner.
Yeah, no, it's it marks the passage of sort of another generation. So, you know, Billy was a player with us, I think, in 1989, and transitioned to the front office pretty quickly. He's been in Oakland ever since. I was a little surprised by the announcement, but not given, you know, recent history and his interest in a variety of other things. Obviously, Billy's a smart guy, but also has a curiosity about things beyond baseball. And so I think this was probably the right time for him to begin to or continue to explore those things. And in the meantime, the A's are in good hands with David Forst. So really a nice situation for the Athletics, at least with respect to the front office.
When you've spent a career running a franchise or multiple franchises, you know, the baseball operations are in your hands. How tough is that to kind of let go of that and not be that guy anymore who makes all the decisions?
Look, I think if you've been doing it for a long time and you've at least psychologically, maybe emotionally passed on to a different phase of that life, it's not that difficult. If it's ripped away from you, you know, involuntarily, maybe after a short period of time or without enough runway to really prove oneself, then I think it would be more difficult. But, you know, I think Billy's been there a long time. He's been doing this for a long time. I don't think he felt any real stress about the job from year to year. But at this point, I think, again, he's got a variety of interests and feels comfortable exploring those. And so my guess is he's already relinquished some of that control to David over the years. And this won't be as meaningful a step away as some people might think.
You know, when you think about Billy Beane as a player, and then all of a sudden you're going to now hire him to start this journey that he's been on, what was it about him, or what did you see in him where you said, yeah, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to bring him in and give him this opportunity?
Well, first of all, he was very decisive in his desire to get into the front office and leave the game on the field. So that was very apparent that he was very committed to the transition. Secondly, very capable. Obviously a smart guy, articulate, enthusiastic. And, that kind of enthusiasm rubs off on a front office just as it does on teammates. So, we hired him originally as an advanced scout, so it wasn't exactly a high risk proposition, and gave him an opportunity to work his way from that, which he did pretty quickly.
What's interesting about the day it was announced, when Billy talked to the media and then David Force talked to the media, was how much your name came up, to where Billy referenced you multiple times. David Force referenced you. What does that mean? I mean, you came back as a special advisor recently, but I mean, working full time for the A's, that was many, many years ago. That here your name keeps coming up in these press conferences for how you helped build this thing that was passed to Billy Beane, now passed to David Force. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think one of the things it means is that the A's, through all the years, have had a tremendous amount of continuity. And I think that, given the limitations that Oakland has faced from a payroll standpoint and so forth, I think that continuity, that consistency was tremendously helpful and contributed to their success. So, when you look at Keith Lippman, who was with the organization for 50 years and oversaw player development for a good portion of that time. Eric Kubota, who runs the amateur scouting department. Billy's obviously been there a long time. But I think if you look up and down the organization, what you'll find is a lot of continuity. You don't see a lot of turnover, every couple of years. And so I think that's partly what this says. Partly it, I think, underscores the value of that kind of consistency and continuity. And then maybe third, it speaks to, the success that Billy and David have had, and some of the success that we had earlier. It's a proud history there. It doesn't get the acclaim that it probably should, but from the standpoint of not just on-field success, but innovation and other ways in which the A's have moved the game forward, I think that there's a lot of history there, and again, I think it has to do with the fact that there's been, relative to other teams, so much less turnover and so much more continuity.
Well, it's never been a dull moment around here. Whether you go back to Charlie Friendly bringing the team out west, winning the 3 World Series, then Billy Ball, then here you guys come and you're leading the ship on to Moneyball to where we are today. But your time, and I really think about the late 80s, where you think about where Oakland was one of the tops, if not the top in payroll, going to 3 straight World Series. When you look back and you think about that time, now that we've started this Oakland A's Hall of Fame, where Dave Stewart just went in, Tony La Russa's gone in, so your managers, some of your players. When you look back at that time and you now see guys finally getting honored, getting that due, which I do think, I don't know when it's going to happen, but you will definitely get into the Oakland A's Hall of Fame. What does that mean to you now to see these guys getting that honor for what happened when you were leading the ship here?
Well, I think 2 things. One is that it validates to a large extent what did occur during those years, from the time that we, hired Tony La Russa, signed Dave Stewart, ended up finishing 587 and then going to the World Series 3 straight years and getting into the playoffs again in 92. It sort of validates that period of time. And I don't think the validation came at the time because, we were favored to win all 3 of those World Series, only won 1. And so there's a certain amount of disappointment there. But if you look at the individuals, and not just from a competitive standpoint, but from the standpoint of personality and entertainment value, those were great teams. And when you start with a Dave Stewart and a Bob Welch, in the rotation, and Dennis Eckersley in the bullpen, but there were some other characters in that pen too. And then Jose Canseco, Mark McGuire, Dave Henderson, Ricky Henderson. It was a traveling, I wouldn't call it a circus, but it was definitely a road show. And that's what baseball should be, honestly. You talked about Charlie Finley, reminds me of Bill Veeck. Baseball is an entertainment form, and sometimes we forget that with all the seriousness surrounding play on the field and so forth. And by the way, something to extent we've lost is that some of that entertainment value. But so validation for those teams, both in terms of their ability as well as personality. And then secondly, it's nice to, at least for a day or two, remember those moments. And, I can remember at the time thinking to myself, is it going to last forever? Or how did we get here? But it's nice after all these years to reminisce a bit and see everybody. So when Dave Stewart's number was retired, I came out and was there, and I'm going to come back to Oakland in a couple of weeks and just have lunch with 14 or 15 people, front office, as well as a few players. But maybe it's that point in my life where there's a little more time to think about those things and get together with people that meant so much to me over, the last 30 or 40 years.
Well, yeah, I remember the last time we talked to you in San Diego, we were talking about all the big names that you acquired and traded again. And you said, yeah, Ricky Henderson is one of the greatest players, and you're the guy that kept trading him, bringing him back, trading him. It's it's unreal.
I went to a reunion a few years ago, and they asked me what were my hobbies, and I said trading Ricky Henderson. It had happened so often. Yeah, that reunion was a while ago, but it was true. I spent a larger percentage of my time trading and reacquiring Ricky than I did most other things.
When you think about, we're going to San Diego again for the winter meetings. Obviously, you're still with the Mets. Is there a time frame for when you will officially retire?
Well, the announcement a month or two ago was that I would step down when my successor is found. To this point in time, and it could change tomorrow, they haven't found my successor. So I'm still here. I'm still in the same position. But I would expect by the end of the year, at least, I'll have transitioned into something else.
Well, it's very interesting. I mean, the Mets are back, and it's great to see, both teams in New York being competitive. It's better for the game of baseball. But you just kind of look at, we're coming out of the pandemic. We're coming out of the lockout. There's teams itching. We're starting to hear the rumors as they build up. I was talking about how this just paves the path to what we're going to have in San Diego when everybody wants to make big deals. Are you expecting a lot of major contracts, major moves, major trades when we get down to San Diego in early December?
It's always difficult to predict what's going to happen at a winter meetings. There's no question that over time, free agent signings have taken precedence over trades. And that's partly because, if you can buy a player, most teams would rather do that than spend their prospect capital. But as a result, it's hard to predict because there are certain players in the free agent market that kind of dictate what will happen in a cascading effect with other free agents. And so those players don't sign. It holds up the free agent market. The free agent market holds up the trade market. So it's hard to predict. And I would never predict that, there's going to be an avalanche of activity, because sometimes in winter meetings, there's a trickle of activity, and it
You there?
I'm here.
Okay. It's all right. We just lost you for a second. Let's end on this. A lot of interesting stuff came out of Vegas for the GM meetings about the new rules. We got new rules. You can't shift, pitch clock, bigger bases. How much do you think, if it even affects it at all, on how general managers, presidents of baseball operations are going to build their teams, and how much will it affect these teams going into next year?
I think there will be a discernible difference in the way that players are evaluated. If you take each of these rule changes, first of all, the banning of shifts. I've been an advocate of that for years and years and years. I just think that there are a couple of ways that I approach this. One is from a philosophical standpoint, and the other is just from a practical, competitive standpoint. To me, getting rid of the shift does two things. One, it frees up the game a bit. Also, it's kind of a philosophical rejection of the game today, which is often dictated by efficiency and decision making in the game that's dictated by efficiency and probability. When the shift was first adopted, there was a real competitive advantage because maybe a handful of teams at best were doing it, nobody else was. Now over time, everybody does it. Everybody does it, more or less as well. There are some small differences, but the competitive advantage is really narrow. But the game has changed. So we end up with hitters that are trying to hit the ball as hard as they can in the air on the pull side, as opposed to going the other way or just trying to get a base hit. There are a variety of consequences from the shift. Not the least of which is that a greater emphasis on offense than on defense, given the ability of the shift to make up for range and more athleticism. So I think particularly on the infield, there are going to be some adjustments made as to how players are evaluated and what their total contribution is, both offensively and defensively, with a little bit less focus on offense than defense, although that'll never disappear. The pitch clock, the games are too long, and the pitch clock will shorten the games and pick up the pace. But the interesting thing from a player standpoint is, what does it mean to go from 25 seconds between pitches to 15 seconds? And how much less recovery time is there from pitch to pitch? So if you've got a relief pitcher, say, coming in and throwing 98 miles an hour, is that individual going to be able to throw 98 miles an hour for 20 pitches with a 15-second interval versus a 25? I don't know. I'd say probably not. So is that going to create more emphasis on command and less on velocity? And we'll see. The bases are not being enlarged that much, but I do think that the attempt to place more emphasis on base stealing is really a good idea, because it's the one thing that will, I think, most significantly change the options for strategy in the game. Right now, there's only one strategy. Get on base, hit the ball out of the park, or hit it in the gaps. That's the strategy. Nobody steals. Nobody hits and runs. Uh, unlike, say, the 10th inning, where that does happen.
Yeah.
Completely different approach in the 10th inning. So I think if you're going to walk somebody and they have a 90% chance of stealing a base versus 75, you're going to see a lot more of it. And that's the only way the strategy is going to change. If we can create alternate strategies that have the same probability of success, now you've got some choices to make. Right now, there's no choice because it's all one. And the reason it's all one is because the analytics tell you that gives you your best chance of success. You got to change the rules, to change the probabilities. And so I think this is a good first step.
Well, now with the bigger bags, does that mean you're going to trade for Ricky Henderson again?
I think it's going to take more than a bigger bag to get Ricky back on the base paths.
If you asked him, he'd show up and he'd be in uniform.
Yeah, he probably would.
Sandy, it is always a treat to have you on. Obviously, you're one of the greats in our franchise's history. It's always an honor. Happy holidays to you and your family. Have a great Thanksgiving, great Christmas. Are you going to be in San Diego?
I'm not sure I'll be in San Diego. I may be. I haven't decided yet. But I will be monitoring what goes on from afar or from near. We'll see. But before you go, I want to tell you how much I like that T-shirt you've got on. Love those colors.
You know what? I got to show you. You're going to love this. So we've gotten more high tech now. This is our new TV studio with the Coliseum in the background and all the bobbleheads. So for interviews, they want us to, but this is what we have now for our new talk show. Truly we got from Raleigh Fingers to Valia Blue to Jose Canseco to Sean Minaya. And we just all A's. You think with the helmet, you think of Gene Tennis or Bert Campaneris. So honoring A's history. So the show lives on, and we've now turned it not only just what we were doing streaming, we've turned it now into a TV show. So just getting better. But thank you for everything you've always done for us. We appreciate it. And an unbelievable career. There's no doubt about it. And you deserve everything you've gotten.
Listen, now that you have this new studio, can you get rid of Mount Davis in the background there?
Yeah. Can you imagine we could just slice that off right there?
Start with a virtual elimination, and maybe eventually you can eliminate the thing in reality. Anyway, nice talking with you.
I guarantee when we get that new ballpark, you'll be there for that opening day.
Probably will be. Yes. Looking forward to it. All right. Take care.
Be well. Take care.
All right.
The great Sandy Alderson.
Thanksgiving.
You too. Pretty cool. I did a pretty good job, by the way. See, that's how fancy we are now. Do you think people saw me do the remote like that?
I mean, unless they were following through on the commercial break, probably not. Oh, you mean during with Sandy? Yeah, they would have saw it. But during the break when you zoomed into yourself, more than likely not. I mean, I did, but that's because I'm sitting here.
No, not during the break. I'm saying with Sandy. I did that on the fly. Look, I can change it. I can go down. I can. This is courtesy a DA right here. Delaire made this happen. This is awesome. Boom. Then we're back. Is that how we want to do it? See, we're experimenting. We're in the off season too. This is can we officially say the Hot Stove League? When is the Hot Stove League? When is it? There's not an official date.
No, I mean, MLB, the free agents were able to sign almost 2/3. It was not last Thursday, the following Thursday was when the off season started. So I officially think then is when Hot Stove starts. I mean, it doesn't really simmer down until spring training starts. And there hasn't been any news that I've seen so far of anyone signing or any trades, anything like that. You've already mentioned Bellinger. We talked about.
I wanted to call in this morning. I was listening to Power Alley, our good friends, Jim Duquette and Mike Farron. They were talking about the Gio Urshela. By the way, I thought this was interesting. And obviously we may follow the rally monkey more than other people do.
Unfortunately, I have to.
You have to. You're married to it. But I mean, they're in our division, right? So our division. But they're talking about, Gio Urshela traded for an Angels pitching prospect. And I wanted to call in. I'll use the rally monkey as my phone. They have no pitching at the big league level. What do you mean they have a pitching prospect? If they had any pitching prospect, I wanted to call Sirius XM and call Farron and go, Hey, if they had any prospect that was worth a damn, he'd be in the big leagues.
Well,
so
they had a couple guys make it, but you're right. I mean, what was it? The draft of was it Perry Manassian's first draft where he drafted like all 20 rounds? He drafted 20 pitchers is what he did. I mean,
how about this? How bad? Like, what is the worst big money deal gone bad in baseball history?
There's been a few, but a few of them were signed by the Angels.
I'm talking big money deal because $125 million for Josh Hamilton no longer is a big money deal. Now, it was big for its time, but I'm talking now that we've gone into the stratosphere of really big money. Like, big money's changed, right? When everybody thought being a millionaire was cool. Everybody's a billionaire now. We're talking big money. Because if you got Urshela, who basically will play third and first, I'm not buying short.
I keep hearing short, but I don't buy it either.
Perry Manassian did not say short in his press conference, by the way. Or I wouldn't say press conferences, presser with the media. He mentioned outfield first and third, did not mention short. I mean, you're getting an insurance policy for Rendon already, and that $245 million, if I'm correct on the money.
Yeah, you're correct.
Is this the biggest wasted crap deal we've ever seen in the game? $245 million, and already you're getting an insurance policy? Who, by the way, Alex Rodriguez said was the best defensive and maybe best third baseman in all of baseball.
It's a fact. We played the audio on this program once before. He said that on Sunday Night Baseball. Shocker, A-Rod thought a third baseman from the Yankees was the best in the American League.
He said it. Sunday Night Baseball.
It's a little concerning if you're an Angels fan that you have an insurance guy for Rendon. And I know Fletcher gets hurt. Fletcher was hurt last year too. And
2 years in a row, Fletch has been down.
Yeah. So they've had some injury, problems with some of these guys. But if you're going to go, I think Rendon would have to be up there. I mean, I don't know if it's Pujols level yet, but you got to be concerned with him. But
okay, that would be different. Pujols played.
That's true. And Rendon, if you want
to say Pujols didn't live up to the numbers, I'll give you that. When I'm saying this is the worst big money deal we've ever seen, he hasn't played.
He's
been hurt, and when he's played, he's been terrible. I don't know if we've seen anybody north. I think about Josh Hamilton, how bad that deal was. That was $125. This is $245. This is a lot. This is $245 million. Just an absolute disaster. When do you want to get into I do want to get into the Hall of Fame, but just let me quickly say this. You saw Sandy there, and you heard Sandy. And his number one point that he made was you got to find other ways that you can win baseball games that the numbers say match just playing home run derby. That's why baseball is trying to get more balls put into play, trying to get the running game going. Because right now, the nerds, as you guys like to call them, I would never call anybody a nerd. I wouldn't do that. That's something Cody calls himself and other baseball people. I wouldn't do that. They've got to see the numbers got to bear out that putting the ball in play more, less strikeouts, movement wins games at a rate of just walking and playing home run derby. That point is until you do that. And obviously, New York, the commissioner's office, is now regulating against the front offices. That's what's happening. There's no other way you can say it. And I know some people would say, well, that's kind of harsh, but it is true. You have baseball. Major League Baseball cannot control who teams hire. I mean, you can't say to teams, no, you can't hire these data analyst guys. You can't hire guys with PhDs that are in to make algorithms and to do all these different things that baseball teams are doing by state, whatever state you're in, like California state law. Major League Baseball could not come in and tell us who we can hire and who we can't hire. Can't do that. Like, I know sports people think that teams are above the law. They're not. You can't come in and tell, hey, Oakland A's, you can only hire this type of person. Can't do it. So what baseball is having to do is they're having to regulate, they have to change rules to combat the way front offices want to play. But that's been happening for years. It wasn't called a half-court trap. What was the trap in hockey that the Devils played? What was it called?
Hold on.
You remember what I was talking about?
Yeah.
Martin Brodeur, the great goalie for the Devils and won all those titles. They had a trap that they played that was so boring and protected Brodeur that you just couldn't beat them. Well, they won a few cups, but they were dominant. But it was boring. Clutching and grabbing. Same thing in the NBA. I keep referencing Last Dance because I recently watched it. The way they guarded Jordan. When you had an elbow on him and you're grabbing him and you're doing all that, you can't hand check anymore. You can't put your elbow into Steph Curry or Klay Thompson anymore.
Neutral zone trap.
Neutral. So remember that because I will forget it, but I will reference this because that's one of the great. They outlawed it. It made hockey boring. Like, we're the only sport that got really boring and didn't do anything about it. Remember the Raiders, the way they used to play man-to-man defense and they would molest? Okay, that might be a harsh word. The way they terrorized wide receivers and would get up in their face and not allow that. Well, they regulated against that style of defense where you got to give some space to the wide receiver to get into his route. I mean, for God's sakes, at one point, they in college basketball ruled out dunking, and they realized that was ridiculous. So you can change rules to better your game. It happens all the time. Finally, baseball's late to the party, but baseball is doing this to combat what front offices are doing. I can't say that enough. So as Sandy just really hit the nail on the head and put it way better than you and I have ever done it, Cody, was saying that baseball's got to figure out a way to make other ways, make the numbers work, percentages to say, well, if we steal more bags, we win more games. We hit the ball the other way. We put the ball in play. We move runners around. That wins more games. And just not everybody swing, you either walk or swing for the fences. Because that's, as he said, there's only one way to play right now. We got to find more. We got to make the rules so the Cleveland Guardians, even though I was watching did you ever see the documentary on the Atlanta Braves?
I have not. Where'd they do it at? Or what network?
It was on last night on MLB Network. And it was interesting because everything, they beat the Indians in 95. So everything's Indians. And I'm like, God, I've had to hit myself. Right. No, it's Guardians. But to play more like the Guardians. No longer, as David Force, our general manager, said, ball goes far, team goes far. So that's got to happen. And the article by ESPN, just the numbers are just so dramatic. I got to make sure I go to ESPN. Cody, I got to make sure. Okay. ESPN.com is the one that's horrible with audio.
I have it printed out right here. I printed it out here in the A's offices.
Well, the key thing is looking, all these front office people, I don't know how it's going to change building a team, blah, 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 blah. But you just see in the minor leagues everything. Hitting goes up, stolen bases go up. When they've made these rules, thank God for a minor league system. You're able to test it. You're able to see it. You're able to then now have data that backs up your rule changes. So they now can look and say, look, time of the game has come down. Batting averages, left-handed batting averages, batting average balls put in play, everything goes up. Stolen bases, way up. Everything is up. Movement. Probably the key thing from this article, I'll save you having to read all this because the majority of it you don't need to read. movement in the game itself is way up. More guys on base, more guys moving on base, more balls being put in play. I mean, defenses are moving more action, more movement in the game is being produced by the rule changes in the minor leagues, which, by the way, you have to realize that in sports, whether it's played at the highest level or not at the highest level, the guts of the game don't change. For some reason, broadcasters seem to think that's the truth. It's not. Whether you're playing in the NFL, college, or high school, you got to be able to block and tackle. Blocking and tackling is the essence of football. If you can't block and you can't tackle, you can't win. You can have all the fancy plays you want. You can have all the fancy, you can have the greatest skilled position guys. In the end, up front, if your front seven doesn't tackle and your line, i.e. also with the tight ends, can't block, you got no chance. Bottom line, baseball, you can't throw quality strikes, you can't play defense, you can't hit, you're not going to win. I mean, there's certain things that you need to do at every level, right? Golf never changes, whether you're Tiger Woods winning a championship or it's me playing tomorrow. The object of the game is to get the ball in the hole with as few strokes as possible, whether you're on television with a crowd around you or you're out at your local golf course. The guts of the game doesn't change. So baseball, if we can get some movement going, more movement, the one thing we do not know, because there isn't a whole lot of evidence yet, is we don't know exactly long-term how the pitch clock will affect pitching. Hasn't been around that long. It's going to take a while to see. We're going to see next year, like all of a sudden, guys got to get up and throw the ball quick. Like Cole Irvin, not a big deal. Somebody who's super slow, going to be a big deal. These relievers, these huff and puff, and I'm going to blow your house down, and I'm going to take 36 seconds to throw the ball 98 to 102 miles an hour. And then I'm going to get the ball back and wait another 30 seconds and throw 102 miles an hour. Then wait 30 seconds and throw nope, you got to get on the mound and go. So I think that's going to take some time. But everything else, we're going to see a lot of movement. And I don't know, Cody, the general managers meetings in Vegas, I don't think they all want to say that they don't like it. But you know what? If they don't like it, I think that's good news. Because they're the ones that have created the game that we have that we all think is too slow with not enough movement.
Yeah, I agree. And reading it, and then one thing that's kind of interesting looking at the pitch clock in this article from ESPN is it says that pitching injuries in the minor leagues went from 1,058 in 2021 down to 782 in 2022. Now, is that because of like what Sandy was talking about, where guys don't have as much time that they regain their velocity in between with 15 seconds? That's going to be interesting to follow going forward with a lot of these guys, because we saw
that's going to be long term. That's going to be because what happens next year if injuries go way back up, and then the next year injuries are back down. So we got to see, that's why I said the pitching clock. The pitching clock. It's going to take a few years to look at the data and to see averages, right? Because that's 1 year to now say, see, guys aren't getting injured. Well, what happens if it goes right back up? Are we going to blame the pitch clock? Not fair either way.
Yeah, and you sent me the stat. I wasn't able to pull it up my phone right now, but about the velocity you sent from our buddy from Codify, who said about how many guys are throwing 98 or harder. It's just unbelievable. Like, there was a stat out there about Sandy Alcantara, the reigning National League Cy Young winner, about how many times he threw like 98 or harder after the 8th inning. And he was like well and above everyone else. The next closest was Ohtani with like 8 pitches above 98 in the 8th inning. So I want to follow the pitch clock, obviously, for the
Wait, would you say Ohtani after the 8th inning?
Yeah, it was like 8th inning or later. Yeah. 8th inning or later.
You're not talking about Ohtani in the 8th inning.
Yes, Shohei Ohtani.
Well, that is like the smallest sample size in the history of sample sizes.
Yeah, we know he didn't go that deep into games. I mean, there are times where he pitched into the 8th inning, but
like twice, 3 times?
I'd have to pull up the official show.
I don't need you to look. It's not a lot.
Yeah,
But-
it's just crazy that how many times Sandy Alcantara did it compared to everyone else. But the pitch clock is something obviously we're going to track to see how we saw the length of games going on to what, like from 304 to 238 in the minor leagues. If we can get it to 245 in Major League Baseball, I think a lot of people will be happy.
Well, it might go way down. We don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. Once you force the pitchers, force them to get the ball, throw the pitch, get into rhythm. I mean, this is the best. This is supposedly the best pitching in the world. So if you get the best pitching in the world getting into the rhythm behind the best defenses in the world, who knows? You can start seeing, I mean, that's just let's say you get the average to 245. That means there could be a lot of 230s, 225, 220s. And you're going to have a lot of people going, this is awesome. Game started at 6:40 and it's over by 9 o'clock and you're home by 9:30 or earlier and you got to go to work the next day. You might say to yourself, I want to go to more games. You want to talk about helping attendance? And this is something that is way too early, but let's see how it helps attendance. Because I can tell you there's many a people that don't go to games during the weekdays because they got to work the next day. But if you told them they'd be home by 9:30 or they'll be home before 10 o'clock, how many people would say, yeah, I'll come to the game? Because not everybody lives near the ballpark. The majority of the people who come to our games do not live right around the Oakland Coliseum. It is a wide variety of people. San Francisco, same deal. Now, if you're going to tell me I can go to an A's game or a Giants game and I can be home before 10 o'clock, no matter where I live, you could see a major increase in attendance over time. But it was a main topic down at the baseball GM meetings down in Vegas, and you can see it on ESPN.com. It's a really good read. How MLB's new rules, shift ban, pitch clock, bigger bases will change this offseason's free agency. I got most of these guys. A lot of wait and see, but if you like a guy now, if you're willing to give a guy millions upon millions of dollars, these rule changes are not going to affect how you acquire people. That's just not happening. Hall of Fame. So did that come out today, the new Hall of Fame ballot?
Yeah, correct. The new ballot came out today. There are, I think, 14 newcomers.
And there's one that really stands out.
Yeah,
And in a game that's turned into the home run. If I told you, without telling you the guy's name, that this guy has hit more home runs than any other person to ever play that position, I'm just going to that's my lead statement. If I have to make an argument for a guy. Because once you put the name in there, now the judgment comes. Now judgment comes. Whether you liked them, you didn't like them, all kinds of things enter your mind. If I just said to you, we've got 9 positions on the field. I won't count pitcher, but I will count DH. So 9 positions on the field. And this guy has hit more home runs at his position than anybody in the history of the game. 150 plus years. No one has hit as many home runs as this guy at that position. Should that guy be a Hall of Famer?
I would say absolutely. I think I knew you're going with this too.
Well, it's we've made the game this way. And this guy played the game, and he wanted you to love the game too. But he played the game the way his era designed it to be played. You wanted home runs. You wanted RBIs. You wanted power. This guy brought that. This guy was an MVP. Was an MVP. That's always a question, right, for the Hall of Fame. Was he ever the best player? Well, he was an MVP multiple years, got MVP votes, but he was a most valuable player. Had monster years. Was an absolute force run producer. 100 RBIs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times drove in 100 runs. 377 home runs, 1,518 RBIs, a career 855 OPS as a second baseman. That's Jeff Kent. Now, was he warm and fuzzy? No. Was he prickly? Yes. And the knock on Jeff Kent now, this is what's so hypocritical. The knock on him is this. Well, he wasn't a second baseman. Well, when I look at his career where he played 90-something% of his career, what position was that?
Second base.
So what position would that make you?
Second baseman.
Then you're going to tell me he wasn't the greatest defensive second baseman. And this is coming from the era that created shifts to get away from great defensive players so they could have more offensive players in the game. So you created a game, as Sandy Alderson just told you, and we've told you, that we're going to shift all over the place so I can get better offensive guys on the field who are not so great defensively. So the Los Angeles Dodgers can win all these games with a left side that has zero range and Justin Turner and Corey Seager, because we're going to shift. And we're going to put the second baseman right over second. So basically, Turner and Seager don't have to have much range, but we want their offense. So this guy played the game the way you wanted to design it. And he did it masterfully. And you know what? I'll tell you. We watched a lot of Jeff Kent. Was Jeff Kent Robbie Alomar at second base? No, but he didn't hurt you. He wasn't a butcher. He could turn too. He made the plays. He just didn't have the greatest range. But you didn't win. The Giants didn't win all those games with him and Bonds, as they are truly statistically one of the best 1-2 punches in the history of the game. And whenever I say that, it makes me think of Jeff Kent. You got to love the game. You can't deny Bonds and Kent as a 1-2 punch. And I know on an A's fighting for a Giant here and an Astro and a Dodger. Jeff Kent should be a Baseball Hall of Famer. I think there's no question. And all the arguments against him are about, well, he's not really a second baseman. Well, if you play 17 years basically at one position, that's your position. And he got paid to hit. And he didn't kill you defensively. Jeff Kent, and this is his last time on the ballot, I think it's a travesty. An 855 career OPS for a second baseman with 1,500 RBIs. He's got more RBIs than some of your great players that you've put into the Hall of Fame.
I think Kent should be into the Hall of Fame. There's no denying it. He has a 55.4 WAR. I know he's not at that 60 threshold we'd like to have, but you hear me all the time making the case that Joe Mauer should be in. His WAR is very similar. It's like 55 something. It's in the 50. It's 55 something. I can't remember what Mauer's is, but with
Joe Mauer doesn't sniff Jeff.
Oh,
Kent.
no, I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying, I'm looking at their WARs. Kent should be in.
I'm just telling you, Jeff Kent's way better than Joe Mauer.
Oh, yeah, and he has over 2,000 games played at second base, where the next highest is like 150 something for him. For people to say he's not a second baseman, that's a farce. And to think that he has 354 career home runs at second base. That's the most all time. He has 377 career, but 354 at second. The next closest is another controversial guy that probably won't get into the Hall of Fame. That's Robbie Cano, who has 325.
Oh yeah,
that's a whole different story. But
that is a
the second position ruined that one
later.
But yeah, Kent should definitely be in for what he's done at second base. And you're right with him playing against right next to Bonds, because when he won the MVP in 2000 and Bonds won it the following year. That was when Bonds hit 73. So Bonds had a top what Kent did in 2000 by hitting 73 home runs the following year to win the National League's Most Valuable Player award.
Well, Bonds basically won the award every year, so they every once in a while had to give it to somebody else, whether it was Ken or Albert Pujols. Scott Rowland's still interesting. For me, I don't really view when I think of Scott Rowland, I don't think of a Hall of Famer.
I asked our coworkers here the same question. I said, "But do you think of the Hall of Fame? Do you think of Scott Rowland?" And everyone in the office was like, "He was a good player," but I'm like, "But when you think of the Baseball Hall of Fame, do you think Scott Rowland?"
No. Carlos Beltran. Very interesting because Carlos Beltran is a Hall of Famer. Carlos Beltran's one of the greatest switch hitters to have ever played. Are we, because now all your writers, that's right, I said it, your writers, they've all become the morals police. The moral clause. Are you not going to vote for Carlos Beltran because of the cheating scandal with the Houston Astros? Now I can't ask you that, Cody, because you don't have a vote. That will be. I would, if I had to put money on it, I think he's got no chance of getting in as a first ballot. Now, he would have had a chance if there was no cheating scandal and he was managing the Mets right now and the Mets were doing well. He would have a chance, but never got a chance to be the manager because he got fired by the Mets because of the scandal. But long term, Carlos Beltran, will they really keep this guy out of the Hall of Fame completely because of the Astros cheating scandal? That to me is crazy. That's, you know what that to me is? Vindictive. That's vindictive.
Well, we're already dealing with it right now with another guy, and I'll talk about Beltran first. I mean, if you just want to go over his numbers, 70 WAR, that already constitutes. He has the same WAR as Scott Rowland, so that constitutes a rookie or constitutes Hall of Fame if you go by WAR. 435 home runs as a switch hitter, 279 average, 1,587 RBI, 312 stolen bases, an 837 OPS. He won 3 Gold Gloves. He was a 9-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year, 2-time Silver Slugger. What he did for the Astros when they went to the World Series the first time when they lost to Jeff Blum and the White Sox.
One of the greatest postseasons ever. Yeah, the numbers are that there's no denying the numbers are that of a Hall of Famer.
He won't get in on the first, second, third, fourth,
maybe
fifth ballot.
Do you know what the definition of vindictive is?
Not off the top of my head.
It's an adjective. Having or showing a strong or unreasoning desire for revenge. Let me read that again. I want you to have Beltran on the mind. I want you to have Pete Rose on the mind. I want you to have Bonds, Clemens, Palmeiro. I want all you people listening and watching to have all these former players who have controversy around them. Curt Schilling, who, by the way, Curt Schilling is not getting in because of politics. I'm not talking about politics like at your office. He likes her, she likes him. They don't like him. Not like that kind of politics. I mean like Republican, Democrat politics. Those kind of real politics. Your political views are against Curt Schilling's political views, and you're not you didn't vote him into the Hall of Fame because of it. So let me read this definition to you again of vindictive. Having or showing a strong or unreasoning desire for revenge. Sounds to me like a lot of vindictive voters out there for years now. Right? Alex Rodriguez is on the ballot. You honestly going to tell me Alex Rodriguez isn't a baseball Hall of Famer? You're going to tell me you've already found every way to keep Pete Rose out because you don't like him. Vindictive.
Bonds and Clemens.
Whether you like Rose or not, whether you the whole gambling on now, baseball's into gambling now. And I know you say, well, that's different. Whatever. You can't say after all these years, we can't put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame, that we really have to stick by this Bart Giamatti, who a lot of people listening to this don't even know who Bart Giamatti is. He's the former commissioner that banned Rose. Yes, Rose lied. My God, when are we going to let it go? I mean, we are holding, has a sport ever held on to punishing someone the way baseball has held on to punishing Pete Rose? I mean, we're keeping Curt Schilling out because of his politics, not for what he did on the field. Bonds and Clemens, yeah, you don't like the way they haven't apologized. I get it. But at what point are we just being vindictive? But we love Big Papi. We're gonna vote a DH who doesn't play in the field, who was an absolute butcher, and clearly you could make the case something was going on, including a test that he once took, the anonymous test that it leaked out that he tested positive. There's clearly enough evidence to look at his stats and to look at the growth of his career. I mean, it's right there in front of you. But we love Big Papi. Oh, it's Big Papi's money now, not Terry Bradshaw. It's Win Big Papi's money. I mean, you're going to let Big Papi in. You're not going to allow A-Rod in, who sits next to him on the Fox desk during the playoffs in the World Series? I mean, at what point are we going to be like Carlos Beltran? We're not going to allow Carlos Beltran into the Baseball Hall of Fame? Or we're going to make him stew? Like it's the writer's job to make him stew for years? I mean, it all screams vindictive.
I don't disagree with any you said. Beltran, I think, has a better chance of getting it than Schilling does. Well, Schilling's already on the contemporary ballot, which he could get in. Hell, he could get it on December 4th when we're on our way to San Diego the next day. He could be one of the guys in with Bonds and Clemens if they get voted in. There's a really good shot that there's, for the second time in the last 3 years, that there's not a guy voted into the Hall of Fame this year on the actual Baseball Writers Association ballot. Because if Beltran doesn't get in, the other first-time guys on the ballot, like John Lackey and Jared Weaver, R.A. Dickey, Matt Cain, they're not getting in. I mean, I could make a case that where K-Rod could garner attention, but if Billy Wagner's not in, K-Rod's not getting in. And K-Rod's had a troubled history off the field that are going to look at.
Yeah.
So you can make a good case for K-Rod and on the field as a reliever. He's not Billy Wagner, but he was pretty dang good with the Brewers and the Mets and the Angels, especially as a rookie with the Angels. But I mean, just like Lackey, but Beltran should go in. I've said forever, Schilling is 11-2 in the postseason. The stuff he said on Twitter before is horrible, and his politics don't matter to me. I don't care as a baseball fan. What he did on the field was incredible, and in the postseason, I don't think I've ever seen anyone better besides what Bumgarner did in the World Series, and we're not putting him in because of something off the field. That I get it, but those two guys they definitely should be in. And I mean, again, Schilling could be in a few weeks, which would be just crazy that those three guys are going in, but nobody gets voted in. That will be. I want to see how baseball navigates that story.
Hey, by the way, who are we to decide what somebody said? As you just said, I don't know what Schilling. I don't follow Curt Schilling on Twitter. I've been off Twitter for years now. What he said stuff that's against the politics you believe in?
It wasn't even just that. He said some stuff about writers and some like really controversial stuff, and I think it was like death threats or something that he said. He said some bad stuff on Twitter, which none of us.
Well, that was after he wasn't getting in, right?
Well, I think and it was like hate speech and stuff he would be sending out too. So he was really bad on Twitter. But
he was. I once again, I don't follow him. I haven't been on Twitter in years, but a lot of from what I read, the original him getting after it was because he wasn't getting in. He wasn't being voted in.
Yeah, he's really bad about that too.
Which does not excuse, but I'm just saying, whatever your politics are, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, an independent, whatever you are, that should not dictate whether you get into the Baseball Hall of Fame or not. That's crazy. That's vindictive. That's getting back to all of these reasons why Rose, why Bonds, why it's vindictive. Baseball is a museum. It's about the history of the game. We elect the greatest players to ever go in. And these guys are all some of the greatest players, and they're not in. And at some point, when do we stop punishing them? Are we going to punish? I mean, are we really basically just going to punish all these guys till they're dead and then figure out a way to put them in? Is that what we're really doing?
We've seen it happen a few times already with the NFL guys.
That's what's happening with Pete Rose. Watch, Pete Rose will die, and then Pete Rose will get in. And then it's going to be like, wow, that's not vindictive? Let's wait for him to die. Then we'll put the all-time hits king. Then he was the ultimate winner. Then we'll put the ultimate winner in because he didn't get to enjoy it. Now we'll put him in. Ha, ha, ha. We got you, Pete. You gambled on baseball. How many years ago?
The 80s, so well over 30. Bill Moriarty's here, by the way, as well.
Editor-in-chief of Athletics Farm is here on A's Cast Live. Bill, how are you?
Good. How you doing today, Townie?
I got to tell you, we're going to send out some investigators to dig up the dirt on you and make sure you never get into the Hall of Fame.
I have a feeling my chances are already pretty slim, so I'm not too worried.
What did you put on Twitter?
I think I've been pretty non-controversial on Twitter. I think I have stayed away from lighting anyone up or being too inflammatory. Just talking about prospects and sharing information is good enough for me.
Yeah, I got kicked off Twitter for talking about promoting A's Cast every day.
Really?
Yeah. At Townsend Radio, I had a blue check. I had 20-something thousand followers, and then one day I couldn't get into my account. They told me we can't even verify you, blah, 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 and it was done. And so
wow.
I haven't even looked. It's been years now, and I'm like, to hell with it. My life's better anyway. All right.
You're doing all right.
Arizona Fall League. It's come. It's gone. It's so interesting. It's like, you think of Stott, who was playing for the Phillies in the World Series. Last year was in the Fall League. So you got guys that will be in the big leagues this year who are playing. You got guys who are developing, guys that were hurt. They wanted some extra playing time. A lot of different guys. When you break down the Athletics, Arizona Fall League, I heard some of the games on Channel 89 on XM when our buddy Mike Farron was doing it, and heard some of the A's guys. How did we do as an organization in the Arizona Fall League?
Pretty good on the whole. But like you said, a lot of future major leaguers come out of the AFL. I remember the first year I went out there, I spent a lot of time talking to Nick Swisher, who had just been a AA player that year. And, there were so many players out there that ended up becoming major leaguers my first year out there many, many years ago. And it continues to be the case. So I think when we look at these guys in Arizona, we really have to look at the guys in the organization who are most likely to make the major leagues. So on the offensive side of the ball, the A's had Zach Geloff out there, Lawrence Butler, Denzel Clark, also Michael Goldberg. And Geloff, Clark, and Butler, I think these should be considered, top high-level A's prospects. Each of them performed well. They each had about half a dozen extra base hits. They each stole somewhere between 3, 4, 5, 6 bases. So they all showed power. They all showed speed. They all played well. And the interesting thing, Geloff in particular, he played exclusively at second base. When he was drafted, he was considered a third base, and he played exclusively at second base, and he played almost every day. So I think that really shows you that the A's are looking at Geloff as the second baseman of the very near future.
Who we kidding? I think we're ready to, because you're right. When we went and watched Geloff with the Ports in San Jose, take on the San Jose Giants, I mean, he was the third baseman of the future. But hey, things are fluid. Things change, right?
Things definitely change. And I'll tell you what, I think this AFL season also solidifies that Denzel Clark and Lawrence Butler are the two top outfield prospects in the A's organization at this point, too. Unfortunately, neither of them has played above high A yet, but I think these guys are the top outfield prospects right now. And we had 4 high-level pitching prospects down there who performed pretty well by and large, too. I don't know if you're familiar with Mason Miller, but he was just our 3rd-round pick in 2021. He dealt with some injuries, but he came back strong at the end of this year, and he struck out, I think, 20 and 16 2/3 innings in the AFL. He made 6 starts, and he had 1 rough one, and the other 5, he was just dominant. So he could really be a fast riser. Colin Palouse, who was at AA this year, he gave up just 3 runs in, I think, 18 innings in the AFL. And JT Ginn pitched very well, too. Had a very good out. Ryan Ryan Cusick started out the season well. He struggled a little bit at the end, but I think he showed what he's capable of early. So I think those were 4 pitchers out there in Ginn, Cusick, Mason Miller, and Colin Palouse, who could also have a future in Oakland before long.
Palouse was protected for the Rule 5 draft, correct?
No, he wasn't. He is probably the one that was most questionable that they left off, because I think there is a reasonable chance after that AFL performance that some team might want to grab him, because AFL is a high-profile league. There's a lot of scouts and executives keeping an eye on what guys are doing down there. So I'd say Palouse may be the most vulnerable to maybe being selected by another organization in the Rule 5 draft at this point.
Well, in case they're going to go back on YouTube or Twitter and watch this, the report is Colin Palouse is terrible. No one would want him. You don't want this guy at all. Just leave him alone.
Stay away.
Yeah, that is tough. But here's something that the A's are not good with, and I've been around this a long time. Patience. They're not a patient bunch. I mean, that's why when Billy stepped aside here on Friday and we talked to a lot of different people, knowing Billy Beane a long time, Billy Beane's been the one guy that he'll trade a top prize. He'll trade anybody to try and win, right? The A's don't have this patience like the Orioles. The Orioles could be at the World Series doorstep and be like, "Nah, we're not going to trade our guy." Like, that is so opposite. And who raised David Forst? That's Billy Beane. So when we talk about Clark, we talk about Butler, having played above A and all that. If guys start playing, as I can tell you, Mark Kotsay I can't even imagine Mark Kotsay going through another year of 102 losses and using 64 different players. He'll be pulling his hair out. But David Forst can say whatever he wants at the GM meetings. He can say whatever he wants at in San Diego at the winter meetings. Bottom line is he's not patient. And we know if they're losing again and these kids are balling in the minor leagues and they're putting up numbers, we'll see them faster than what they're saying now. Would you agree with it?
I do agree. And I think another thing you started to get to there, Chris, as well, is a lot of times the A's will end up dealing their prospects for other players. I mean, if you look at the makeup of the A's roster over many years, it's often not guys they drafted. It's guys that they traded for using guys they've drafted. So I also wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of these prospects we're talking about who are doing well end up being dealt for other players that the A's acquire from other organizations who end up being key parts of the team going forward as well. But it's interesting when you talk about Billy not being patient. I've actually sat in his office in spring training and while the games are going on and seen how emotional he gets when something goes wrong on the field. And he said that's why he doesn't like to watch the games, because he's so impatient with things, that when he sees something go wrong, he gets very emotional. So that's one of the reasons he used to try to stay away from watching too many games, because it would drive him nuts and he'd want to trade guys right away.
Well, and there's always this, we don't know what the future is, right? We don't know ballpark. I mean, how long have we been dealing with ballpark? We've been dealing with ball. We've heard as a front office, you're like, I got to win this year. I'll tell you about next year. I mean, these teams, the Pirates did it for years where they were under 500 for 20 straight years. We've watched, Houston came out of it, but there's a lot of teams that go into that full-on dumpster dive rebuild and they burn it down and then don't build it back up. I mean, the Rockies have been rebuilding for years. I mean, Baltimore finally, we'll see what happens with Baltimore next year, but Baltimore have been so bad. And even when they got good, people didn't trust it and their attendance was bad. I respect, and that's one of the things that's been great about covering the A's all these years, is that that whenever there is we're going to have to trade some of these guys, we're going to be back though in 2-3 years. Well, we went through the one bad year. Next year's 2. We don't go 4 or 5 years. So things will turn around pretty quick. So we've got some guys recently that have been signed by the A's. Who do you like?
Well, I'll tell you that we've signed a bunch of minor league free agents. People always focus on the major league portion of free agency, the big names. Those usually aren't the guys the A's are going to sign.
Are you saying Aaron Judge and Justin Verlander are not coming to Oakland?
I hate to burst your bubble, but probably not most likely to be
Carlos
landing in Oakland.
Carlos Correa.
I'm sad
DeGrom?
to say,
We get DeGrom?
probably not. Probably not.
All
so
right.
so the A's have signed thus far. They've signed 5 minor league free agents. A lot of times are used as depth pieces throughout the year. Sometimes you get lucky and you sign like a Brandon Moss, who becomes like a key part of your team. But I'd say those
all-star.
Yeah, sometimes you can really do well with this. Farhan used to really focus on this when he was with the A's. He did a great job of signing free agents who'd be big contributors, minor league free agents, that is. I'd say the most high-profile minor league free agent the A's have signed is infielder Tyler Wade. He spent parts of 5 seasons with the Yankees, and he's played a lot of second base for the Angels early last season. He's a good defensive middle infielder, left-handed hitter, has some speed, not a lot of pop, but he could be a left-handed hitting infield option, playing around the infield for the A's over the course of the year, the coming season, especially if there are injuries as well. But that he has more major league experience than any of the guys they signed. But they also signed Pablo Reyes. He's another versatile infielder, played in the majors with Pittsburgh and Milwaukee, right-handed hitting infielder. They also signed first baseman Kevin Crone, who is the son of the A's assistant hitting coach and also the brother of CJ Crone. He's hit about 60 home runs and like 700 AAA at bats in his career. So he's one of those big AAA bashers who could do a lot of damage at Vegas. And if the A's need another backup first baseman somewhere along the line, he'll be there. They also signed a left-handed hitting first baseman Trenton Brooks. He's the only one in the batch who hasn't had any major league time. And then they signed a right-handed reliever, Rico Garcia, who has pitched for a few major league teams in his career. He had Tommy John surgery in 2021. He came back last year, had a really good minor league season, struck out a lot of guys in the minor leagues. So he's really a guy that can put out some strikeout numbers in AAA anyway. So he's one of those guys that could maybe come into the bullpen somewhere over the course of the season, depending on shake out.
Well, I've talked about it that it really wasn't there last year. There's two ponds you can fish in at this time of the year. And this big pond over here has some really big fish in it and has some crazy great fish in it. Then over here, it's a smaller pond, not as sexy, but that's where the A's fish. And they've done really well fishing in this pond. And those names you just talked about, they don't live in this pond. That's your Aaron Judges, Verlanders, Correa, those guys. They live in this pond. And the A's have had a lot of success because let's face it, in this pond here is where 2012, 13, 14, 18, 19, 20 were built.
Oh, yeah.
Along with your drafts, right? So it's like.
Absolutely. Look at guys like Brandon Moss or Mark Canha. These were not high profile guys. The A's were basically able to grab them for nothing, Yeah. Or even Marcus Semien or Chris Bassett, who they got into trade. These guys were not considered high level, prospects really. So the A's have done a good job at fishing in that little pond and coming up with big results. And I think, that definitely is going to be the case. That's how things are going to continue, at least until we've got a real stadium on the board. That's what they're going to continue to do. But fortunately, the A's have had a very smart front office, and they do as good a job as any of fishing in that little pond and coming back with big results. So hopefully they can do that again this off season and help make 2023 a little more bearable than 2022 was anyway.
What's so interesting about that is I heard an interview today on MLB Network Radio on Sirius XM talking about the Dodgers, where the Dodgers, all of a sudden Aaron Judge, but the reality is they gave that big money to Betts. They gave really good money to Freddie Freeman. They've let Bellinger go. They've let Justin Turner go. They freed up a bunch of money. But it was their beat writer from the Orange County Register who basically said, I'm not buying that they're in on Judge. He goes, the way these guys operate, they're going to want some projects. They're going to want to fish, not so much in the big pond, but the Dodgers like fishing. Look at all the relievers that they bring up, all the guys that these projects they like to, it's like we're in a game to where all these front offices want to make these moves that are dirt cheap so they can tell you how smart they are. Right? They want to take Tyler Anderson, revamp. It's like a car, right? They want to rebuild Tyler Anderson and say, look what we did. Well, he moves on to Anaheim, but look how we changed him. Look how we fixed him. So it's like, even if you have money, those guys want to fish in the same pond we fish in.
Well, you have to realize the guy running the Dodgers used to run Tampa Bay, so I mean that's that's the mode he's used to operating in. But also, part of the philosophy is it's how much bang can you get for your buck? So yeah, you can spend all that money on a guy like Aaron Judge, great. But can you take that money and parcel it out differently and maybe get more production overall than you would out of just that one big marquee player? And that's what these guys look at as Billy beat before. It's not the guys you don't sign that can kill you. It's the guys, and when you lock a guy up big contract, you're putting a lot of your team on the line there on that one player. And if you diversify your investment more, you're putting yourself a little more at risk. So that's part of that operating strategy too that's involved there.
All right, you sent a list, and it's like crazy. We used 64 players last year in Oakland A's record. And if you think that's bad, the Angels, if you remember, we played them. It was the final game, the final Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'll never forget in the game notes. Angels used 65. They used one more than we did. So it was like, wow, that's crazy. But I have a list of all these guys that played for us.
2.5 teams.
And I look at all these names, and there's not one. Sam Selman was a punchline for me, by the way, in the A's postgame show all the time. I'm looking at Brett Honeywell. Remember, he's coming from the Rays. I'm looking at a list of all these guys. I can't think of one of these guys, the list that you sent over, that I go, yeah, I wish he was back.
Yeah, these are guys that have left the A's as minor league free agents this season. And there were, I think, 13 guys who had actually appeared for the A's last year. Austin Pruitt probably put in more innings than any of the pitchers who were departing. Sheldon Noisy and Sky Bolt probably played more games than any of the hitters that are departing. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys, they were just kind of replacement parts over the course of the season. These were not guys who were destined to be key cogs in the team. They just ended up having to fill a role in a down season. So I don't think any of these are big losses in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, there's about 25 guys who are leaving the system as minor league free agents. Like I said, they've signed about 5 now, and I've been told they've got a number of out to several other minor league free agents as well. But again, these guys, just tend to be kind of organizational depth, kind of filler in case of injuries. But with the way things went with the A's, you ended up having, probably a dozen guys who really in most seasons would be considered pretty replaceable, pretty disposable guys. And that happens when, you've got a down year. So you have to fill those slots with somebody. And a lot of these guys the A's filled them with were, just kind of a lot of career minor leaguers, honestly.
And I want to be honest here, because we don't want to be known as a homer show. I mean, we're pro A's. Obviously, we work for the team. We're pro A's. But people know if they listen to my postgame show, I'm brutally honest about what happens on the field. And we like to be honest here. And so I want to be honest, right? This is me saying it. You don't have to partake if you don't want to, Bill. But the reality is, a lot of these guys, they're A's draft picks. And I heard a lot of excuses about last year. Well, you lose Chapman. You lose Olsen. And I'm like, okay, but look at the guys who are playing for us, especially in the beginning. Billy McKinney, you loved him. You drafted him the first round, right? I mean, Sheldon Noisy was a draft pick. Like, if you looked at the team and the guys we were playing, that some of these guys are like, they're not big leaguers. Okay, but you drafted them. This wasn't like we came out of the lockout and we just had to sign a bunch of guys. There was a bunch of these guys that you drafted. They were your guys in your system that you groomed. Are they not Chapman and Olsen? No. But I don't think we should get a pass on the guys that didn't work out last year, who are guys that we draft. We need to draft better.
Yeah, I mean, and as with many organizations, some years you kind of get a good draft, some years you get a real clunker, And I'll tell you, there's a couple of guys who were available to be taken in the Rule 5 draft this year by the name of Austin Beck and Lazaro Armenteros, who fit into
First
that
rounder.
mold that you're talking about there. Yeah, Austin Beck was a first-round pick.
First rounder.
Lazaro was a big international signing.
Beck was 6th. Was he 6th?
I think
in the draft?
he may have been. It was pretty high, I remember. Yeah, I mean, that
He was higher than Kyler Murray, because Kyler Murray was what, 9 or 10?
That was very disappointing, the Austin Beck pick. I mean, that one has really, you need those first-round picks to pan out. I mean, it makes a huge difference if your first-round picks are not panning out. And he and Lazaro, we were looking at them, and Kyler Murray is the potential future outfield of the A's, and it looks like, we're 0 for 3 in those guys. And just imagine if just a couple of them had hit, what a different scenario you'd have. So you really do need these draft picks and these top international signings to pan out, or will really hinder your franchise.
Oh, yeah, the guy, oh God, his name escapes me. The guy that we gave $5.1 million to, that I always bring up.
Are we talking about Poisson, Robert
Yes,
Poisson?
Yeah. Robert Poisson. Gave this guy, like, you're watching the Astros and you're hearing about how the Astros went into Latin America and just carpet bombed it with money. We'll sign you for 75. We'll sign you for that. They went super cheap, signed a bunch of guys and said, hey, a couple of them have to work out.
Right.
And that's what they did. And that strategy worked. I get it. You can't do that anymore the way the rules work. But yeah, what would you rather do? Pay a bunch of guys nothing and hope some of them work out, or put all your eggs into $5.1 million Robert Poisson, who couldn't even make it in Stockton?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a crapshoot with those international signings. I mean, the Astros may have had the best strategy, is, spread it around and just hope to get lucky, because so many of the big signings, I mean, some pan out like Acuna and guys like that, but a lot of them don't, like, Poisson, like Armenteros, it's just such a crapshoot. The guys are so raw. You just don't know really how they're going to develop. So, I mean, I mean, honestly, I feel like teams spend too much money on these international signings to begin with. You'd be better off putting it into players that have a little more of a track record, here in the U.S. I think, it's just so random. But yeah, you got to hit in the draft, and you got to hit with those international signings, or you're just not giving your organization the foundation that it needs. I think the recent drafts have been good for the A's, have been better. So I think, we the draft with Geloff, and we had Soderstrom that COVID year. There's a Denzel Clark, I think, as a 4th rounder was great. Brett Harris as a 7th rounder is great. So the recent drafts, I think, have looked a lot better. But sometimes you just hit a clunker, and then you kind of got a little hole in the system for a little while there.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough drafting. I mean, I always look at the NFL draft, and the NFL draft, you've got players where you can watch every game they've ever played in college. You can watch their practice tape. Every Division I program tapes their practice. You can know, you put them in a combine, you can talk to them, you can give them tests, you can do physical, you can do everything, and they still get it wrong. That's what's so tough about the draft. I mean, we're signing kids that live in different countries. We're drafting kids that are in high school. They're leaving prom. Next thing you know, we're sending them off to the middle of nowhere. I mean, it is so tough in baseball. You don't know what you're getting. You really don't. You may think you know, but you don't know.
Baseball is really unpredictable. I mean, it's so much more unpredictable than the NFL draft. I mean, you've got a reasonable chance of knowing what to expect out of a guy there, but still, like you said, you can never be certain. But in baseball, it's such a long development path from being an amateur player, even if you're playing in college, to playing in the major leagues. There's a much bigger gap than playing college football and playing in the NFL. So and baseball is such a much more complex sport. There's so many things you can get wrong, and that'll screw you up. So it's so random which guys pan out and which guys don't. So you just have to try to make the best decisions when you're drafting every step of the way, and hope the odds will be with you, because a lot of guys that you're convinced are going to be, great major league players are never going to set foot on a major league diamond. It's only a small percentage of minor leaguers that ever make it to the major leagues. So, it's going to be a bit of a random process. You just have to try to make the best decisions as often often as possible to increase your odds of getting a handful of players that are going to be useful to your major league club.
Well, the good thing is with the guys that we value right now, as of right now, it looks like they're basically all going to get a chance, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said the last time we talked, I think there's a lot of guys on the verge. I think Zach Gelof's on the verge of being the A's of the future. I think Tyler Soderstrom's probably on the verge of being the A's first baseman of the future. I think Kevin Smith's going to get another shot at third base this year, and right behind him is Brett Harris, who was just drafted a couple years ago. Another very good third baseman. We got Nick Allen at short. We've got Max Muncy right behind him at short. We got Shea Langoliers at catcher. We've got about another half a dozen solid catching prospects behind him as well. We've got guys like Denzel Clark and Lawrence Butler in the outfield. And then we've got a lot of these young pitchers, in the future too, like we talked about Ginn and Cusick and possibly Palouse, Mason Miller, Jeff Criswell, Hogan Harris, who was added to the 40-man roster. So I think there is a lot of hope coming up for the future. These are guys who are not that far away, who've shown enough that I think we can put a reasonable amount of faith in them, being productive players for us in the future. We just have to show a little bit more patience, get over the finish line. Maybe we can get the stadium deal across the finish line too, and we'll be about ready to start putting together that team that will be ready for the new stadium a few years down the line.
I can tell you, every single time we interview, I look over your right shoulder and go, I would love to play the Austin Powers. I would love to play that pinball machine.
Well, you got to come by and try it sometime. The great thing is it has all these audio sounds from the movie.
Yeah,
too. So
baby. Yeah. Oh, I bet they got them all.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, if you're going to play pinball, it's one of the most entertaining ones you could play. I had the option of getting a Playboy pinball machine from the 70s, which I was tempting, but the Austin Powers was hard to beat.
Yeah. It depends what party you're at. Sometimes the Playboy one wouldn't be such a hit, but
this one's family friendly anyway.
Yes, and I love old school pinball. Pinball's the best. All right, Bill. Let's see. We got Thanksgiving, and then before you know it, we're going to be in San Diego, and we'll be at the winter meetings. We'll see if there's any wheeling or dealing. Why don't we hook up before Christmas, and let's hook up and kind of review where we're at before we head into the new year.
Yeah, maybe we'll have some new prospects in the system that David Force has acquired at the winter meetings, and we'll have some new guys to talk about. I'm sure they'll be busy and up to something down there. So, yeah, I think that'd be a great time to talk again.
Or maybe we traded a bunch of our top prospects for one of the big names in the game.
Yeah, anything's possible, but I would imagine that if the A's are making acquisitions, we'll probably be having to dig around to find out a little bit more about who these guys are. So
we'll have a good Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you after the winter meetings.
You too. Take care, Tony.
The great Bill Moriarty, who covers the A's as good as anybody down in the farm system. Look at this, and then we just go back. Bang! How about that? There you go. What do you think, Cody?
I love how excited you are about using a remote. So I mean, I can't really complain. Can I get this in real quick? It's an A's promotion that I want to get out there.
There's my jerseys right there that we're gonna have to hang up. So we're gonna have multiple cameras, by the way, just to explain to people what's going on. Because, by the way, for the people on our chat, you can get this shirt at lastdivebar.com. This is a Last Dive Bar shirt. So what we're going to do is we're going to have multiple cameras. So we're going to have a whole wall here to my left, A's jerseys and A's stuff, and we're going to allow you to send us stuff to add to the wall. But, yeah, this is our new toy. We can zoom in. We can zoom out. Lots of fun. I can go up. I can go down. There you go. Boom. What do you got for me? What's the promotion?
This is before we go out. But this holiday season, the A's are celebrating the community champions who are dedicated to improving and supporting our communities. Fans can now self-nominate or nominate a person in their community who they believe has demonstrated courage, strength, and self-sacrifice while lending a helping hand. Nominations can be submitted at athletics.com/community champion. That's athletics.com/community champion. The A's will select one community champion each week in December, highlighting 5 in total to receive the recognition on the team's social media channels. Each community champion will also receive a special gift from the A's. You have until December 20th to enter. That's athletics.com/community champion to nominate or self-nominate someone today.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I just got to think, like, there's a lot of good things around the A's you could buy for Christmas for somebody who's an A's fan.
Oh, well, we have, our gear. There's so much stuff you can get on our website, athletics.com/shop. Is that what you do? Is that what it is? I never actually had to pimp the website like that where you.
Well, we get sent emails and you just click on you can go to MLB.com, go to A's, and it'll take you to the A's store. I just bought a new and by the way, I don't know who you are. You're right. Sheldon Noisy was not an A's draft pick, but we acquired him. But we did. How many guys were we rolling out that were A's draft picks?
Sky Bolt, Sean Murphy,
McKinney,
yeah.
Billy McKinney was the number 1 pick by the A's.
Nick Allen, Chad Pinder, Dalton Jeffries.
There's all kinds of guys we were playing.
Hold on, I know there's more.
We have 64. We use 64 players.
Seth Brown. Man, there are so many guys that were. I know there's probably pictures we're forgetting.
I can't use my computer because everything that you're seeing here is going through my computer, so I can't use my computer like I normally do.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of them.
But you get my point. There was a lot of guys we were using during the year.
AJ Puck.
There was a lot of guys that we use that you're like, oh, yeah, he was a draft pick. Or you could say this. Sheldon Noisy, you traded for him. You brought him up through your system. He wasn't some random guy off the street. Sheldon Noisy was a guy that you got rid of and you brought back. So you had guys that you acquired, put them in your minor league system that you brought up. Guys you trained. Your minor league system has to hit.
James Caprillion could be one of those guys. We traded for him and built him up through the minors.
Do you have all 64 guys in front of you? I can't look it up.
Let me see. I was going to bring up something else on the way out about a player who sounds like an Oakland A already, but we'll end with that.
Go to Baseball Reference. You'll be able to see all the guys that played for us.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let me pull up our team.
I can't do it on my computer.
All right.
Yeah, but what was it, 2 nights ago, they've got like
Jonah Bride.
Jonah Bride. Jonah Bride's a draft pick, right?
Yep. Let's see. I'm just going through. A lot of these guys were, different guys. Elvis we traded for. Machine was a Rule 5 guy.
We traded for Elvis when we were winning.
Pache, Jed Lowry on the 95th time with the team. Stephen Vogt, who started his career with Oakland. Christian Bethencourt, Kevin Smith, Piscotty, Dermis Garcia. Jordan Diaz is an A's guy.
Yeah.
See, I'm just going through the position players. Mikey McDonald, pretty sure he was an A's pick.
No.
Yeah, he drafted by us in 2017.
Was he? Okay, there you go. I don't know your handle. There you go. That's what I'm saying. We had a bunch of dudes that were our draft picks that played for us that did not play well.
Yeah, I'm looking at the relievers. We threw up Puck. We said Jeffries. Lou Trevino, who's now a Yankee, he actually settled in arbitration. So he's
17th rounder by the A's, Sweet Lou. 16th or 17th round.
I think he was 11th rounder out of Slippery Rock. So yeah, those are just some guys that just going through and looking that played for the A's this year. See if there's anyone else I'm missing pitching wise. I don't really see anyone else that really came up. Yeah. So yeah, there was a lot.
But then you got to remember when you mentioned someone like Elvis was traded for when we were trying to win. Tony Kemp was traded for when we were trying to win. I don't want too many times people acted like, well, you had to have those guys. Well, you acquired them when you were good. So you acquired them to help you win. They may be left over, but you acquired them as, part-time players, but you acquired them when you were in win mode, not in desperation. We just have to fill roster spots mode.
Would we count Frankie as a guy who came through our system? I mean, we did kind of build up his career too.
Well, he's traded over from the Dodgers. Yeah, just because he was, what was he originally, a White Sox?
Or was it a Red Sox? He was originally, let's see, I'd have to go through his whole, because he wasn't drafted. I'd have to go through his whole.
I think he was a White Sox and somehow ended up with the Dodgers. But whatever, he came up through us. He was trained and came to the big leagues as an A.
So he signed as a Red Sox as an international free agent in 2009. Then he was traded to from the Red Sox with J.B. Wendelken to the White Sox. And then obviously he was traded to the Dodgers and then traded from the Dodgers to the A's.
So if you come up and make your debut with us, you came through our system.
Oh, then there's even more guys then that could be on that list.
Totally. That's what I'm saying. We tried to all start acting like last year was just, we got these random guys that we had to sign because of the lockout and we didn't have a lot of time. No. They're either drafted, acquired, or came through a lot of guys came through our system.
The guys that were traded for were like, J.P. Sears, Adrian Martinez, Adam Aller. I mean, Paul Blackburn was a first-round pick by the Cubs, but he came through the A's system.
Because he went to Seattle and then came to us?
That sounds about right. I'd have to click on his page.
Yeah, so a lot of these guys came up through us somehow, whether we drafted them or we signed them or we traded for them. A lot of the guys. Not everybody, but a lot of the guys.
Yeah. And he was traded for Danny Valencia.
And you know what? The front office owned it. They said it was a tough year. They understood. I mean, David Forrest apologized at one point. He hated it. But yeah, you got to start seeing for the A's to start winning, to avoid 102 losses, to avoid 100 losses, you've got to start producing. Your minor league system has to bear some fruit. Definitely has to bear some fruit. I don't even know how many people right now are like really, when we've talked about next year, I don't even think a lot of people even think about Pache.
It's a fair point.
I know we did an interview with somebody and we were talking about it and I went, hey, what happened to Pache? Remember we were doing an interview with somebody about the outfield for next year. Pache was an afterthought.
Yeah.
Who was that? We were doing? We were starting to put a roster together for next year. Oh, it might have been Eno Saris.
Yeah. We were joking about having Bellinger in the outfield.
Well, I think it was even before that where we were talking about we could Seth Brown and start where can we put guys? Ramon. If this is what we have, and certain guys aren't dealt with, Pache wasn't even in the equation.
He's going to build his way back up through the system, kind of like the way Kevin Smith was doing towards the end, where he was on. What he had like 13 home runs in September or whatever it was for Vegas.
Every night he was like 3 for 4 with a home run. It was insane. It was like because I got to do that minor league report in the 5th inning for the broadcast, and every day I started getting these reports, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, are they just repeating the same thing from yesterday? Because it was like 2 for 4, 3 for 4, 2 for. I mean, he could, for some reason, you couldn't get him out. So who is he? Is he going to be that guy? I mean, obviously you traded Matt Chapman, and he's one of the guys. You're going to give him a shot. I mean, he'll get one more shot. See what he does in spring, and then at the start of next year.
Real quick before we go, I'm going to give you some stats and tell you position he plays at, and you tell me if you think he sounds like an Oakland A already. In 500 at bats this year, he hit 226 with 22 home runs, 69 RBI, a 710 OPS, but a 106 OPS plus. He played for the Padres and the Nationals. He's going to be 32 years old next year. Who am I? First baseman / DH.
Josh Bell?
That'd be Luke Voigt. Does he sound like an Oakland A already?
Oh, yeah, he looks like an Oakland A. If you could put a uniform on him, put the jerseys white, he doesn't wear the undershirt. Open up that jersey with a chain. Luke Voigt would be a great Oakland Athletic. I'd take him in a second. I'd take Josh Bell too. Josh Bell was terrible.
He was. Josh Bell feels like, to me, he feels like a Houston Astro if they don't want to bring back Gurriel.
Oh, no.
Jose.
You haven't- Yeah, Jose Abreu. Watch, Abreu's going to sign there.
What do you mean? Apparently, San Diego wants him really bad.
Yeah, watch. Jose Abreu is going to be an Astro. I'll tell you. By the way, did I send this to you? Because I know I've been sending you a lot of stuff, and you don't pay attention. Do you realize how bad? Because Josh Bell may be a guy that's going to be a Ray. Do you realize how bad the Tampa Bay, the Rays, as they said, because we always talk about the A's and the Rays. The Rays, they say, are like right now clearing their throat. They're letting a bunch of guys go. And they're going to allow some of their prospects to earn jobs next year. But did you know it is shocking how bad the Rays were against right-handed pitching? It's shocking that they made the playoffs with how bad they are against right-handed pitching. Did you know that?
I didn't know that until you sent it to me. And then they got rid
of it. I did send it to you.
Yes.
It's crazy. I mean, because you're going to face more right-handers than you are left-handers. They hit 214 and had an on-base percentage of 288 from the left side of the plate. That's their left-handed hitters could not hit. They had a 630 OPS, only ahead of the Tigers and the White Sox. I couldn't believe the White Sox were that bad. And then they batted 238 with a 678 OPS against right-handed pitchers. How did they make the playoffs? I feel like Jim Mora, playoffs.
Timely hitting. I don't. It's staggering. And well, I mean, they do it by, I guess, pitching and defense. Although they're like Kiermaier walk away too, so they're going to be very different. That when you sent me that, it just blew me away that they were. I mean, the White Sox were almost a playoff team. They were 500, but they were in the mix for a while. But yeah, it's going to be the Rays are going to be.
You stepped on my Jim Mora. I can see Jim Mora playoffs. We can't even hit right-handers.
You kidding me? Playoffs?
Playoffs?
I just hope we can hit a righty.
I mean, it's these meet. Yeah. What are the Rays going to do? Are the Rays going to take a step back? Are the Rays going to like, they've had a team kind of like when we've had a stretch of X amount of years and all of a sudden you take a step back. Are the Rays about to take a step back? Because Yankees got to be all in. Toronto's all in. Got to believe Baltimore's a comer. And Chaim Bloom's getting fired if he doesn't win in Boston. The AL East is interesting. If the Rays take a step back, does that allow now Boston to get back into the conversation? You see Baltimore where they're going. Let's see what Baltimore does here this offseason. They're definitely a division to look at. I mean, the NL West. A lot of talk that the Padres still want to be wheelers and dealers. I don't know how they have the money. I mean, how can they sign Abreu and be paying $43 million to Boston for Hosmer? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's plus you got guys that you're still paying, and guys what are they going to do with Juan Soto? You have to pay him eventually. I mean,
you're going to have to pay him in arbitration this year.
Yeah, so they're curious.
He's got to get over $20 million in arbitration.
Yeah, what was it? Was it Bellinger or Betts that set the arbitration record? I think Soto's going to break it this whenever they pay him.
But they should just do his arbitration on what he did in a Padre uniform. Then he wouldn't make anything because he was terrible.
Wait, he doesn't swing the bat.
It's
kind of hard. It's kind of hard to put up numbers when you don't swing.
I don't know if you've noticed this. How many games did the Dodgers win?
That'd be 111.
Who's playing shortstop?
Gavin Lux.
Who's playing shortstop?
Yeah, they don't have anyone yet.
Who's playing third base?
No one right now.
Who's your opening day starter?
Julio Urias.
Oh, would be Walker Buehler, but he's out for the year.
Kershaw.
Who's your center fielder?
They don't have one.
So I'm just throwing this out. We don't cover the Dodgers. I mean, we will break down every single team at one point. Way too early for that. By the way, I heard a show on MLB radio doing that. I'm like, you're starting to break down divisions before the winter meetings?
Before guys even signed?
Like what? That's not good. It's not good programming. But if I'm able to say that to you now, this is a team that won 111 games, and I'm saying to you, you have no shortstop, you have no third baseman, you have no center fielder, you don't have your ace. Now you have other guy but there's a lot of question marks for the Los Angeles Dodgers for a team that just won 111 games. You got your bullpen's all over. Blake Trinan's done with that shoulder. I mean, for a team that won 111 games, you have this aura of this, we're smarter than everybody else, but right now you got a tremendous amount of holes.
It's gonna be it's gonna be interesting to see what they've been linked to Kiermaier, and apparently now Mitch Haniger is another outfielder they've been linked to, according to JP Morosi.
Well, who isn't? I mean, they've got Haniger to San Francisco. They got, by the way, San Francisco, you're on the board. What do you got? You got holes. You're like Swiss cheese. You got holes everywhere.
Yeah, and they haven't made a move yet. They've been apparently they've been linked to Kenley Jansen and Cody Bellinger. So, let's see.
Old closer and a 27-year-old that's lost his game, and you were out there bragging that you were going to spend more money than anybody?
Sounds like a San Francisco Giant already.
There's a lot of questions in that National League West. Very interesting. I mean, how about the AL West? I mean, are the Rangers going to be these big spenders? I mean, Gio Urshela doesn't pitch, right?
Last time I checked, no.
So, okay, who's going to pitch for the Angels? You need 6 starters, plus you need bullpen for us to take you seriously. And, okay, you think you can replace Verlander that easy, huh? Because unless Verlander, who knows what he's doing, but you just won a World Series, and you seem real interested in everybody else. You seem real interested in everybody but the team you just won the World Series with. Is that fair?
No, it's true, yeah.
So they're acting like, oh, we have so much depth. Oh, you're just going to replace Verlander like it's no big deal. And Carlos Correa continues to fascinate me. A guy that's so talented at his age. Why aren't people rolling out the piggy bank for him?
It's a great question. I think we'll find out more in the next couple weeks.
And you break down you break down his year. Do you think his year last year was all that great?
It was okay. I wouldn't say it was great.
The last time I checked, he was interviewing Jeremy Pena during the postseason as a television analyst.
Yeah, that's true. He was a pretty good television analyst, but.
All right, this is our last show until the winter meetings.
Oh, we're not doing a show Wednesday?
No, we're not doing. We're doing a show before Thanksgiving.
Oh, I don't know. I thought you wanted to.
No.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. I guess I'll tell don't worry about it.
No, we're not doing a show before Thanksgiving.
Okay. All right. Works for me.
We have the day off, right? We always have the day off before Thanksgiving.
I mean, we can take it off if we want.
We've never worked the day before Thanksgiving.
Well, I just know we have Thursday and Friday off as a company holiday.
And Wednesday's not a company holiday?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, we're not. We've never done a show the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's okay. No one will be listening anyway. Well, Thanksgiving.
We no one's listening. I got people that are asking me about my shirt, for God's sake.
No, talk about Wednesday, not today.
Yeah, I mean, day before Thanksgiving. Come on.
Everybody came on and tuned in and video and audio after the World Cup qualifier or the World Cup tie between the U.S. and Wales.
I got to go shopping on Wednesday. My God, it's the worst. The worst. It's the worst.
Well, good luck.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Next time, so when we come back,
we'll be back on Monday.
We'll be back Monday. So we'll have one more week before. But yeah, lots going to start going down. And once again, what we're doing is we're paving the road to the winter meetings. Because I got a feeling, Cody, that this is going to explode. Because it's been years since we've had a true winter meetings. It's been years since all these GMs hunkered in their rooms and said, let's go. The Zoom meetings didn't do it. Last year was the lockout. Winter meetings is where a lot of business gets done. And it's been since 2019 since we've had these winter meetings.
I can't wait to go back there, and I can't wait to see. I'm hoping that selfishly, I hope something happens before then for us. But if not, and it all happens while we're there, can't wait. I can't wait. I actually had a guest reach out to me and ask if they can come on while we're in San Diego. Are you familiar with the guys that run the Cespedes Family Barbecue Twitter account? They're pretty popular on Twitter, and they have a show on Fox Sports, and they have a podcast on MLB Network Radio. They're going to be coming on with us. So that's our first confirmed guest booked for the winter meetings. The guys,
Cespedes Barbecue guys, that's the best you got?
Well, they reached out to me. So we still got like 2 weeks. I have all my emails typed and ready to go.
They have a show on Sirius?
I think it's a podcast, but it's for I don't know, the guy from Sirius XM reached out to me though.
Yeah. Cool. I used to follow them back on. I'm sure my old account. Although that's right. Twitter zapped all the people I was following. At Townsend Radio says they follow nobody.
Well, that's what I told you the other day. You can reach out and see if you can come back on. I mean, the 45th president of the United States is back on Twitter. So,
isn't it amazing how life is now? Isn't it amazing? Everybody's freaking out. Oh, I can't believe it. Oh my God.
That's your chance to get back on now. Just send Elon Musk.
What was the bigger band, Trump or me?
You probably.
Yeah.
Because we don't know why.
The biggest question is, what do you at? What is it? A Giants fan that messed with me? Because that's it's San Francisco. Is it? It was my account. Can we start a rumor? I was basically railroaded by Twitter because of a Giants fan who works for Twitter.
I can't confirm that, or we can't deny it.
Probably now been laid off.
Yeah, we can't confirm nor deny it. That's the truth.
I'm going with that. It's a conspiracy. The Giants hacked into Twitter to get me kicked off.
That would be kind of funny if it was the truth. That's the definition of vindictive.
Do I got to go back over vindictive? I think I got rid of it already. Yeah, I don't have a problem with you doing the show from the Jack. The only problem, it takes my computer away from me because it's over here and I can't function.
Well, we gotta get those iPads functioning then. Then you got to type, and it's a lot harder to type.
Yeah, iPads are much tougher. All right, we will be back next Monday. You'll hear Eno Saris. Do you really? Do you think we're going to try and track Eno down, make him do something the day before Thanksgiving?
Well, here he comes. I'll tell him, don't worry about it. Enjoy the time.
A lot of people are traveling, for God's sakes. All right, we'll be back on Monday. Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your family and your loved ones. Hug everybody. Tell everybody you love them. And then we'll be back on. Enjoy the football. Enjoy football. The World Cup. Have we played yet?
Yeah, we tied with Wales earlier, 1-1.
I said yesterday on the golf course to one of my golf partners who's born and raised in London. And he's trying to sell me Germany or Spain is the team to beat.
That sounds about right.
Hey, where's the Brazilians, for God's sakes?
Well, we got to play England on Friday. Big one on Friday against England.
I said you guys are a bunch of trolls and you're afraid that if the United States was to win the World Cup, it would destroy the World Cup.
It wouldn't. It'd be very shocking. I saw people tweet that they should walk out the pitch after the national anthem.
How disappointed would the world be? Because they love the fact that we are who we are in soccer. They love that. What would the world do? Because you guys say it's the world's game. What would happen in the world's game if the United States was the best team?
Shows we've grown as a soccer nation.
I don't think the world would feel that way.
Not at all. I mean, we would.
I think the world would be anti-United States winning the World Cup.
Probably. Because it's a sport that no one in the U.S. really, I'm going to say it, and people are going to say, no, we do. No one really cares about soccer in the U.S.
What? More kids play soccer? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, my kids play soccer. Tell me how much they play now. Who is the favorite?
I never actually looked up to see who the actual favorite is, but Spain or Germany sounds like they would.
Did you buy your scarf and all the other stuff people are buying for the World Cup?
No, but I might. Maybe I'll get one for Friday. They're having a watch party, and the Quakes are hosting a watch party in San Jose. I'm going to go to on Friday.
Oh, really? Really?
think it's
I'll
like,
be, wa-
I
I'll
think
be
it's like
watching.
him.
I'll be watching real football, having leftovers.
Real football on a Friday? What, college football?
Yeah, real football.
Isn't the Iron Bowl this weekend? Alabama, Auburn.
You got the Egg Bowl, which is the great rivalry between Ole Miss and Mississippi State. What do you mean? We got Notre Dame, USC. We got a lot of big football going on. Who's playing Friday? I know we've gone over time, but now you've upset me.
We got the Spartans and the Rainbow Warriors on Saturday at Spartan Stadium.
Damn right, as we've gagged.
Football eligible. That's all that matters.
What week are we in? Week 13?
Yes.
Of the college football season. Friday, we got Baylor in Texas.
Baylor a game against TCU.
Oh, we got a bunch of games Friday. We got Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan. We got Toledo, Western Michigan. We've got Tulane, Cincinnati. We got, big game for us out here in the Mountain West. Utah State against Boise. Two teams that don't like each other, Arizona State and Arizona.
Oh, God.
Arkansas, Missouri. Two nationally ranked teams in North Carolina State, North Carolina. That's a rivalry game. New Mexico, Colorado State. You want a dog of a game? I got a dog for you. Nebraska, Iowa. How about your Cal Bears who stink? They're playing UCLA on Friday. Florida, Florida State, a rivalry game. Wyoming, Fresno State. That's all Friday. So you go watch your little soccer. I got college football and leftovers all day Friday.
By the way, guess who's at the Cal game Saturday? I didn't even know about it.
Don't even care.
Well, wow. Shots fired at Sarah Langs, who was at the game.
Oh, the great Sarah Langs. I take that back. What is she doing?
Told her, she's been in the Bay Area, and I saw she posted it on, I think it was on Instagram. And I said, if I would have known you there, I would have given you my tickets in the Stadium Club. You could have enjoyed all of that.
She comes to the Bay Area, and we're not having her on the show?
I didn't know she was still here. She was at the Niner game last week, at the Cal game this weekend. So it's been a good little run for Sarah here in the Bay Area.
All right, everybody, have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you on Monday.
The Coliseum has gone by many names, but none better than the Last Dive Bar. Hi, everyone.